Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Duke CE live event on LinkedIn Live called the Agile Dashboard. We provide foresight for leaders. My name is Joe Perfetti. I'll be the host of the show. And today on the Agile Dashboard, I'm very happy to have as my guest Jim Brady, who's a managing director and chief inspector for United Airlines. He is the one that makes the last call on all safety operations for the airline. As he was talking to me in the pre-call, he said that there are 4 names on the operating certificate of an airline. Jim is one of them. And interesting, I met him about 18 months ago in the United Rise program for emerging leaders. And now he's actually one of the senior leaders at United Airlines. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on our show today, Jim. Welcome. Jim? Can you hear me, Jim? All right. Well, I think we're having a technical issue with Jim's feed. Consider it a delay, and we'll see if we can get him back. While we're trying to do that, let me mention that can you hear us, Jim?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. 2 of our guest panelists today can't have some show without a glitch today. Got to have that. Waiting for the dog bark or the internet hiccup. 2 of our panelists today that'll be here as well are Vishal Patel, who is the global managing director at Duke Corporate Education, and Scott Kirby, who is a vice president and vice dean of the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine. So Vishal and Scott, welcome to our show as well. They're going to be joining us back in about 15 minutes to talk to Jim as part of the panel. But Jim, let me start again. Welcome to the show.
It's nice to be here, Joe. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. And so again, the focus of our show today is basically talking about flying safely in a COVID world. And I think that safety is paramount, not just in the airline industry, but in any other business. And your job is safety. And so I just want to start out with a simple question. Has anything changed in the last 6 months about your job because of COVID?
As far as COVID, no. As far as safety, for United Airlines and our safety culture, which is our primary goal, is safety, compliance, and reliability. Our primary function is, regardless if it's 1 aircraft or 1,000 aircraft, safety is our number 1 concern for not only our passengers, but also our employees. So my job is to direct, manage, and to control the aircraft inspection programs to ensure the compliance, reliability, and safety for all aircraft and operations for United.
So I know that the airline industry has obviously gone through some challenges with travel. Revenue last quarter, I think, was down. They said 87% on your conference call. Corporate traffic's down 96% in June. I think you also have a lot of planes that probably aren't flying right now. Does that change the way that you do safety?
Well, no, we have a different philosophy as far as some of the aircraft we have that are what we call in storage. We have a storage program for the aircraft that aren't flying. We have procedures and processes in place to maintain those aircraft in a readiness position, determined on how long they're in storage. But for our live operation and even in our storage program, we still maintain our safety standard of it's always about safety, compliance, and reliability. So we have a good team out there. I'm very confident in the entire structure at United, the safety culture, that it starts at the top from our CEO, not just for personal safety, but also for the safety of our passengers also. That's the most critical thing. Nothing has changed as far as our philosophy on safety. It's just another day of work for us. So.
Yeah. So actually, what is your philosophy on safety? How do you make the call if there's an issue with a plane or an engine or a part? How do you actually make that decision?
Well, that's a complex question, but I can try to simplify that for people. We have daily inspections. We have mechanics that walk around the aircraft every day. We have pilots that walk around to look for obvious defects. But also we have scheduled maintenance for these aircraft. And through different various time frames, these aircraft have to go through checks. And some are daily checks, some are weekly checks, some are monthly checks, even some are heavy checks. But for us, the quality control department, we focus on what we call an RII, which is a required inspection item. All right. And a required inspection item it's any maintenance procedure, repair, alteration that if improperly performed or if performed with incorrect parts or materials could result in a failure, malfunction, or defect, which endangers the safe operation of the aircraft. That's what my team is primarily focused on, and we address those every day. So that's the important thing that we focus completely on safety. Safety is always our first, excuse me, it's our first priority and our only priority.
Yeah, you also, when I first met you and we were talking about it, and by the way, full transparency, I was global services on United for 5 years, so I flew a lot, and I appreciated everything that your team did to keep all of us safe. Is that you mentioned that you kind of call balls and strikes and even get calls in the middle of the night about planes?
Absolutely. The important thing is I have a structure. We have a team of inspectors, our frontline inspectors, and those inspectors also look at these and make decisions. And every day they make these decisions, and those decisions are made with guidelines that we have in place. They're strict guidelines, and sometimes these decisions are a little more complicated and involved other views of opinion, and those flow up. And when they get to us, my management team, that we do make decisions, and we do call balls and strikes, and we're always going to err on the side of safety. We're never going to jeopardize the reputation of this airline on one job, one flight, or one ETR. So that's the most important thing. That safety is our culture here.
Yeah, I know that sometimes passengers complain on the plane, but at the end of the day, you get us there safely, and that's more important. And I assume that, like I said back at the beginning of the show, you kind of are responsible for the final call. Like if you say that the plane's not safe, I don't think there's anybody at the airline that can overrule you. Is that true?
That's correct. And also, I want to emphasize that same control also starts with our frontline inspectors, and it goes up all the way up. If our inspector makes a call that's it's a critical and it's a safety related issue, then we take that serious. And of course, we have decisions that have to be made, and they get passed up to us. But we have all the confidence in the world in the training of our inspectors. So we're a team. And that's the important thing, that we are a team, and an inspector on the front line who makes a decision is just as important as my decision. Also, I have the confidence of my inspectors, and including my OSV inspection team, to make the right decision.
Well, and so I want to kind of explore that a little bit more, which is you're obviously importantly in charge of the safety culture at United Airlines. So as a leader, what are some of the things that you do to make sure that culture stays where it needs to be?
Well, communication is the most important, right? That I'm communicating and I'm accessible, right, all the way up through. Safety is our credibility currency at United, right? So that's important, that I communicate every day with my team. We have supervisors that get out every day and speak with our team. It's important that we talk about the dirty dozen, right? That's some of the things that I think we're going to show later on, that there's a lot of distractions out there that not just.
We have the graphic dirty dozen if you want to speak to it. It's already up on the screen.
Right. These are the dirty dozen that we go by, and these are the things that we've found out over the years through research, through not accidents, but incidents that we've had, that things come across complacency. There's so many outside factors, and people don't realize that we're human too, right? And we have to make decisions, and the decisions we make can be affected by a lot of things, outside influences. And it's important that we maintain that, and the message gets out every day clearly to our team, not just the inspectors, but the mechanics, that the quality of the job rests with the technician performing the job. We as inspectors are required to look at certain, like I said, our required inspection items to ensure safety. But the quality rests with the technician, and it's important that we follow paperwork, we follow procedures, and we have procedures in place if they don't understand paperwork, that they do ask questions, and that the effectiveness that we do our job depends on transparency. Me as a leader, I have to be transparent. I have to know that there's no small issue. we take everything serious. If we don't make a determination if it's a small item, there's no such thing as a minor problem for us. We take everything serious.
So I'm assuming that your door is always open, and if somebody has any type of challenge, you're definitely accessible to that.
Yeah, I think for that's a policy. That's the open door policy. Is I'm heavily involved with my team. I think if anybody on my team is listening on this, they know that I get involved and I stay active, and I communicate daily with my leadership team and also down to the floor, that they know that I'm accessible, that they could pick up the phone and call me and ask me a question, and I'm going to give them a straight answer. So there's no black and white or no gray areas for us. It's black and white decisions for us. So.
Yeah. So, so again, speaking of sort of gray areas, I know one of the fears that people have, and I can even see in the chat, the questions are starting to come up about, we're now in a COVID-19 world. How should I feel about, as a passenger, about what you guys are doing to keep us safe? Jim, or you froze up again? We lose you? Technical difficulties?
I'm back, Joe. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I was just asking, so in a COVID world, people are worried about their personal safety flying. I know you're doing some things. What are some of the things you're doing to help in a COVID world to keep us all safe?
Well, some of the things United has put into place is we're working closely with the CDC, also the Cleveland Clinic, to ensure that we are cleaning our aircraft every night properly. We have procedures that we follow as far as electrostatic spraying. And we also have UV protection that we're using inside the cockpit. We actually use a UV light that actually goes into the cockpit to ensure that we're properly cleaning the aircraft in the cockpits. And also, our company policy now is that we all wear masks, including our flight attendants. Every United employee is required to wear a mask. And that's important, that we as leaders lead by example. And that's important. You get on an airplane now at United, you're required to wear a mask. Our flight attendants hand out sanitation wipes, and we ensure that they're properly being used. They're going to make sure you use that sanitation wipe as that extra set of precaution. And also, if you use the United app, we have a lot of information on our app about before you get to the airport, what to expect as far as wearing a mask and the social distancing that we're going to use on the airplanes. But the confidence is out there that we are properly maintaining these airplanes and keeping them as we can for this COVID situation.
So just to follow up, I see in the chat, we actually have a question from Animesh Mishra. And basically if we get the question popped up here, basically, if I can kind of paraphrase what I think they're asking, is I mentioned at the top of the broadcast that, the entire airline industry has seen a big drop in volume. And obviously, your staff is under tremendous pressure to cut costs. And all these safety things probably have to cost a lot of money. So how are you balancing that? What is the thought in terms of the budgetary issues regarding safety?
Well, I'm not a financial expert, but I can guarantee you that when it comes to safety, there's no cost cutting. We're fully engaged and we're fully supporting any safety that involves not only our employees but also our passengers. That's number one priority. There's no shortcuts when it comes to safety. In fact, we've enhanced safety as far as requiring certain things and as far as safety training. Our employees are trained annually on anything from heat illness to ladder safety to hearing protection. So that's one of the aspects. It's part of our core 4 that we care about our employees, right? And we show that, and that's carried on. But there's never been, as long as I've been in this business, I've never been asked to do a shortcut or cut back and let's save some money here. That's not an issue. It's a non-issue at United Airlines as far as safety is concerned.
So you mentioned core 4, and I don't think everyone is necessarily familiar with that. Can you explain what that means?
Well, core 4 is a philosophy that was introduced a few years back by our CEO at the time, Oscar Munoz, and it's about being safe, being caring, be efficient, and being dependable. And those are the four principles that we want United Airlines internal culture to be. That we've empowered people to make decisions there's to make personal decisions, the right decisions. Um, Customer service agents can make decisions to save flights and not have any retribution. They want to give our employees the empowerment to make decisions on the spot. And it's been part of training. We've all been through Core 4 training, a few different levels of Core 4 training, and each Core 4 it applies overall. But I think the most important thing for the Core 4 is the caring. You have to show that. We always like to say a happy employee is a productive employee. That employee has to have a voice. That the employee has to know that they can reach out to leadership and ask a question. And some of the questions we ask are difficult, right? But it's important to know that we have the backing of our leadership team, that they do care about the employees, because that's one of the things that it's all about the people, right? And it's I like to say that for us, we in QC, quality control, and maintenance, we work for cause, not applause, right? Our job is to get that aircraft to the gate on time in a safe and reliable condition, so that we can put passengers on the airplane. Pilots can fly the airplane. We can sell tickets. That's the important thing. So that whole culture, and it's taken a little while to grab on, and it's with anything, it's been a change, but that culture's been in force for I think the last 3 or 4 years, and I think you've seen it. We've seen a lot of positive results. Under these circumstances, it's not always the best situation with the COVID situation, but I think even from the top, there is the caring thing that matters the most. Our CEO, Scott Kirby, and our whole entire E-team is sincere when they care about the employees. It's been a tough situation, and the hard thing is we have to stay focused. We have to stay focused, and these core 4 principles are what we fall back on, and it's working. In my opinion, it's working, and we've seen the benefits every day from this.
So if I can just follow up on one thing you just said. So obviously United just transferred CEOs. You have a new CEO, Scott Kirby, great guy. Trusted you with the responsibility of being the chief inspector. Like, what's his message to you in terms of what he wants you to accomplish?
Be myself. Scott wants me to be myself and to make the right decisions, and know that he has the confidence, and the rest of the leadership team has the confidence that I will make the right decision. And my job is to keep United Airlines safe. And that's the important thing. It's like I said, he likes the fact that we work for cause, not applause. And we like to be behind the scenes. We're like the offensive linemen in football. We don't want to, we'll let Scott Kirby make the touchdowns. We don't want the touchdown being called back because somebody in quality control or maintenance made a mistake. So our job is to eliminate mistakes, and he's confident that I have the team, and I've been fortunate enough to have a prior leader. Mario Bravo was my predecessor, and he gave me a good platform to work off of, and he set me up well to carry on the tradition and build on what we've already started at United.
So the show's called the Agile Dashboard, and measures and metrics are obviously very important to understand what's going on. What's on your dashboard? What do you look at to make sure that you're getting the right data to see that you're staying safe?
Well, for us, there's so many aspects and departments that focus on not just safety but reliability and compliance. For us, for quality control department, we monitor things every day. We sample inspections. We of course perform our RII inspections that we talked about. This happen every day. We have leadership meetings every day. We have an info share. We share information with other airlines. As far as any safety concern that comes up, we share that. We meet with the FAA on a monthly basis to discuss issues with the FAA. And we measure with daily reports. We have metrics. We have people that work in analytics that trend data to look for possible situations that come up later on. And that's one thing that's changed in our industry is I could say the younger generation is more uh, savvy on analytics, where we used to rely on tribal knowledge, but now we have reports, we have graphs, we can see trends, and we look for these trends to well, the trends are there so we can head off and see any potential problems that may be coming up. So that's important. But we do daily walkarounds. We have safety briefs every day. We talk to everybody about safety briefs. It's important for me with the 30 dozens complacency, especially this COVID environment. It's important that I have confidence in my frontline leadership to get out and talk to these people every day. We have meetings every day to talk to them about their job assignments, what we're going to be dealing with. We work well with our Tom C, our Technical Operations Maintenance Center. They monitor all aircraft. We have engineers that monitor engines every day. It's hard to explain this in 5 minutes, but it's a symphony. It is a symphony. It's a lot of moving parts that come together that make this work, and we're just a small part of it. We're an important part of it, but everybody plays an important role at United Airlines, all the way up from the person performing the maintenance to the inspector to even the people on the ramp that load our bags, that make sure our airplanes are getting pushed off safely.
Yeah, and I want to bring Scott and Vishal into this conversation to join us because when you talk about this, I think providing meaning to the employees about how important their jobs are is really critical. And it sounds like you have a team and collaborative culture. And so I want to start with Vishal because I know that you work with a lot of senior leadership teams, and building the right culture is important. So do you have any thoughts on what you're hearing about Jim and his comments and culture at United?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing here is the fact that there's one thing to have communication kind of going down to people, Jim, but it's having that feedback loop up, right? Because inevitably what's going to end up happening post this pandemic is there are going to be fundamental pillars of your culture that are going to be rattled, if not completely shifted, right? So then how are you as an organization able to kind of get that feedback and make a stronger United that comes out of it? That's kind of, I think, the number one leadership challenge that we're seeing. And I actually have a question, if you don't mind, because I think that, we've all, none of us have really dealt with the pandemic like this, right? And at the scale that it is. What is it, we're drawing on some of your experience of the past, what's kind of a leadership lesson that served as an anchor to kind of, give you some stability through this crisis?
Well, I think the only thing that, one, for your first part of your question, I think it's important when you talked about communication going up. And that's one thing that we've seen in the last few years is our leaders have town halls. And I'm not just saying myself, but our vice presidents are, excuse me, Scott Kirby, Brett Hart, Linda Jojo, Kate Gibo, John Voigtman, everybody that's involved in our leadership. So we have town halls. So there is open communication and transparency going up. And that's important. And I think that's some of the culture change that we've seen. And if that culture wasn't in place prior to this happening, I think we'd be in a little bit difficult situation. So the communication goes up. But for me, the one thing that we can always relate back to, and there may be some people that may not remember this, but 9/11 is the closest we had to this. When 9/11 happened and how it hit our industry and the effects that it had as far as furloughs and aircraft being grounded and that uncertainty. So, but for me as a leader, I don't want to get too far off of this, but I've been fortunate enough where I've worked around some good leaders and some bad leaders, right? And I think it's important for people out there that are becoming new leaders that it's important to take that in. And you can learn just as much from a bad leader as you can from a good leader. And then you find your own way. But I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of good people along the way show me the right way. And I owe a lot of debt and gratitude to those people. And unfortunately, I've been in this career for, I'm going to age myself, but over 35 years. And I think it's the one regret that I do have, Michelle, is that I can't go back and thank all those people that have helped me in the past to get where I'm at to make these decisions. But I think transparency is a big thing when you're a leader. You have to be authentic. You have to show transparency, and different situations are handled different ways, right? I mean, you can't be prepared for this, but the one thing they do is they want a steady hand, and that's the important thing. And as a leader, we're all leaders on this. Some of us are leaders on this call, and as a leader, people watch everything you do, right, and how you react, and that's an important thing. I like to go back, and I might be jumping ahead, but I think it's important that as a leader, when somebody does ask you a question, it doesn't matter if it's a vice president or if it's everybody's a United employee to me. It doesn't matter. You're a United employee. But if somebody asks me a question, I have 4 rules. I stop, I listen, I think, and then I speak. And for some people, I carry a little black book. It's just a little notebook. And you'd be surprised, but when you write something down, we've all been leaders, and somebody's come up to us and said, hey, Joe, hey, I got a question for you. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And you're walking and talking. It's important to stop and listen and think and write that down and speak and follow up with it. And sometimes the answers you give back aren't the answers they want to hear, but they understand and they appreciate the transparency and the honesty. That's the one thing you have to be. If you're not honest and you're not transparent, that's going to be a major hurdle becoming a leader and continuing to be a good leader. And you have to adapt. You can't stay still. You have to keep training. You have to keep trying to improve yourself. Just 15, 20 years ago, we didn't know what diversity training meant, right? We didn't. We don't. And those are some of the things they need to see. And as a leader, you have to. You can't condone things, right? You have to make sure that you're out there on the floor. You're talking to people. You're being human. You have to understand, get to know people, right? I try to make 3 personal calls a week to all the people I have. It just might be something else, but it's not always about work. You have to understand the people. And I like to tell Joe that I have a philosophy when people come into work, if they have distractions, like with the Dirty Dozen, you have all kinds of distractions at home and personal life and things like that. And for us in quality control, we make critical decisions, like I said, that can adversely affect the aircraft and how it operates. And if you're not there, I have built a culture that I'm okay with somebody coming up to one of my supervisors and saying, just not in it today. My head's not there. I'll find you something to do. I don't want you making a decision that's going to be critical to the safety of this aircraft if your head's not in it. So, and I think that compassion goes a long way with empathy. So many things there's to talk about. We could spend an hour on this conversation, but hopefully I answered that for you.
You gave a great answer, Jim. And actually, we absolutely could. Unfortunately, we don't have that time today. But Scott, you're listening to this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jim, I love it. So in education and healthcare, we think a lot about systems, and your reference to a symphony is just great. So while you're engaging with the multiple parts of United, you're in a lot of different businesses. You're doing a lot of different things. How do you instill that systemic awareness in your employees? Do you have any advice for folks listening in today, how you embed that in the thinking of your team members and of others around you? Because with aviation, just like with healthcare, if you're not thinking about the whole, if you're not thinking about everything, you're just not prepared. You're just not ready to fly. That question may have broken the internet.
I'm back. I was just buying time to look at my notes. No, but I can appreciate you guys. Like I said before, tell them I need a new computer.
Yeah,
so, that would help. No, I think what we were talking about, I believe what you're talking about, how we handle the systemic. Could you repeat that question again real quick?
You bet. If I break the internet this time, we're done. I'm done. I may get the hook. So I said, like healthcare. So I'm in the education of the business of healthcare education, but aviation, like healthcare, you have to think systemically. You can't optimize a part to help the whole. Your symphony example, the symphony isn't better if you've got good percussion or a good instrument. The symphony is better when all the instruments play well, really well together. So how do you install this systemic, holistic mindset in people? Because you're interacting with a lot of parts of a very complicated business.
Well, that's a good question. And one of the ways I think you can look at, we have we can start off with the personal safety. Annually, we have training for all our employees. If it's on ladder safety, if it's on CPR, if it's on heat awareness, we understand that what a heat stroke is and what heat exhaustion is, the differences. Bloodborne pathogens. We go through mandatory training. Also with that, and that's for all employees, right? And that's the safety culture that we have. Where I think you see that the overall safety is we've done a better job with all work groups. Every work group likes to think we're the most important work group in the company, right? If we can't do it, well, nobody else can work. But when you move up, and I try to help my team understand that decisions we make have long-lasting effects, right? It's not just that aircraft getting to the gate, but for everybody on this call, if you want to see the symphony, when next time you're at the airport, look out the window, and what do you see? You see aircraft coming, being parked. We see aircraft being pushed. You see catering trucks. You see airport vehicles. You see fire trucks. You see baggage carts being moved, and that whole safety culture of awareness that we have to get. It's so critical because it's like I said, the safety of our employees is most important. There are so many distractions out on the ramp that people don't understand. Just the hearing, you can't hear things, right? There's vehicles moving around. Hand signals are important. The communication we have with our flight crews is important. So I'm not sure if I answered that question correctly, but I think it all starts with we have to show as a company that personal safety is just as critical. Each employee's our safety is just as critical, and we put procedures and processes in place to identify if there is a safety concern, that they raise their hand up, and there's not going to be any repercussion. Yeah. If you see somebody not doing something correctly, you need to stop them. It's a dangerous environment out there. It's very extremely dangerous, and as much as we don't like aircraft damage, that it does happen where a vehicle may hit a something, the most critical is the employee, right? Yeah. And the importance they play in that. But I think overall, the one thing that we need to get is everybody is important to United Airlines, and it doesn't matter your title or position or where you're at, that everybody plays a key role in this. And that's the important thing, I think, that we need to get the message. And we do a good job transferring that message to people.
So, Jim, I want to say there's one other question from the audience, and I want to go back to Vishal because I know he's got another culture question. But I have one quick follow-up. When an incident does happen, unfortunately, how do you respond? And what happens to the person that's involved in that incident? Are they blamed?
Well, no. Well, that's a loaded question, Joe. So, but it also depends on the severity, right? As far as we have procedures built in, not only to our paperwork, our policies, but we also have procedures that we do check. We do check paperwork. We do check system checks. We just don't blindly fix an airplane and say, "Hey, I said it's good, it goes." We have built-in test equipment. Our flight crews also do pre-flights that check some of these systems. They're very well aware of what maintenance was performed or if there is an issue. But no, if my philosophy is look, we have a safe industry. This airline industry has gone through the safest it's been in years, and we're the airline industry in the United States is the envy of the world, right? With the amount of flights we fly. And I think it's important. The one thing that people want to understand is that safety is important. It's my primary function at United, but it's also the primary function of our I don't like to call them, there are our competitors, right? But we share open information with the Deltas, with the Americans, with the Southwest, Alaskas. It's an aircraft to us. So safety, we all take safety on our aircraft is super critical. If somebody does make a mistake, right, I'm going to say a high percentage. I don't want to give exact percentage, but mistakes are made, right? And what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is we want to fix that mistake. If we have a non-compliance issue that we find out, our first goal, anybody, is you stop the non-compliance issue, right? If that plane could be flying somewhere and we find out, hey, we missed something or something didn't, it could be something that you don't, it could be something minor to everybody, but we consider it a non-compliance issue. Our job is to stop the non-compliance. That plane may be flying somewhere, but our job is to contact our TOMC, our Technical Operations Maintenance Control Center, and we'll stop that non-compliance. We'll put that airplane down. But when somebody makes a mistake, I'm not big on punishment. I think a lot of times, 99% of the mistakes are made just for those reasons. Complacency. There's a dirty dozen. They're not intentional mistakes. And I think it's more critical that we learn from those mistakes. We take those mistakes. Our first obligation is to fix the problem. Then we'll go back and find out how we got there. And we do investigations. We have our quality assurance department is good about doing investigations. We do investigations in our quality control department. We look for root cause, right? We look for the root cause. We look for the compliance of what we had to do and procedures that we're going to do to correct that non-compliance or that root cause analysis. And we save that information and we pass that information along. I'm big on somebody makes a mistake, I want everybody to learn from that mistake. And that's the most important thing. And we don't want people to have that fear. We want that open communication. We don't want Joe Perfetti to perform a job and say, I think I did that right. And I want you to say, hey, I got a question. I need some help. That's what we're here for. The communication is so critical. And we have to bury our egos. We're mechanics. We think we can fix everything. And sometimes where we find the most problems is we don't follow our paperwork, our policies, or our procedures. And that's the most critical thing where I've done this before. I don't need to do this again. And that's critical. I teach my inspectors and tell them, I don't want you memorizing anything. We want you to go get the paperwork, pull up the paperwork, have the proper tooling, proper paperwork to perform the job that's at hand. But when we make mistakes, there are mistakes. We're not perfect. My team will tell you that I expect perfection from my team. I don't hold that. Do I expect to get it? No. But if we're not striving for protection or for perfection and safety, then there's no place for you on my team at United Airlines. I'm straightforward that way.
And thank you for that answer. So I know we're running out of time. Vishal, final question for Jim.
Yeah, Jim, this may be hard to think about, but once the pandemic is finally over, what do you think will be the lasting cultural impact of this crisis on your team and on United Airlines?
Well, for my team, as far as safety and compliance, that's not going to change. We're still going to do things the same way we've done before, as far as following our paperwork and follow proper procedures, and that's not going to change from the maintenance standpoint. And I could say that for the maintenance team also. We're still going to do things by the book, the way they're written, period. Now, as far as passengers, do I think people are going to be wearing masks more? Probably. I think as far as how we communicate, I think I can't really speak so much to that. That's really not my expertise. But I think going forward, just the way we do business now, this is something new. These video conferences, we've all gone to the social distancing and we can't get back to work. So this is a new thing for us to learn. Hopefully we'll get back to a modified schedule right now hopefully that we'll be able to actually interact with people. And once this thing gets better, but I think I know Scott has said that we don't expect things to get back to normal until there is a vaccine, right? So because there is that fear out there and it's there's so much information out there and misinformation, and So I think that's one thing that'll change as far as how we address cleanliness. I mean, it's probably something we all had to learn, right?
Yeah.
About how we clean our airplanes. We'll be more stringent about cleaning our airplanes, keep them safe, and we'll probably, can't speak for the experts, but this is just my opinion, that we'll encourage people that are sick, that may have that, to continue to wear a mask on the aircraft, right? So you don't spread anything. But as far as how we're going to change as an industry, I think that not just the industry, but I think everybody's going to change the way they look at things, right? As far as
Right.
that. So the long-term impact, safety-wise, as far as we're concerned, and maintenance and quality control and inspection, nothing's going to change that way. We're going to stay right where we're at. So.
And really appreciate that comment, Jim. And unfortunately, we've gone kind of past our time here. So as we wrap up, I do want to get 15 seconds from you. Final words. What would you tell your successor is the most important thing about the job when they take over? 15 seconds.
Okay, 15 seconds.
Yeah, 51 thing. Just one quick thing. What's your message?
Be authentic. Be authentic. You have to be authentic, and you have to show your people that you care. You have to, and that's important when you have to have a succession plan in place. And I want the person that takes my spot to be better than I was. That's my goal, is to make a better leader, better leaders. I don't want people to rest on what I've done. I want people to take what was given to me and build onto that. And I want to provide them the tools going forward, that as this job progresses, and when I do go to onto greener pastures or retirement someday, that my successor will be able to take what I've given them and improve what I had. So I want them to be better than I ever was. That's my goal.
And I appreciate that ambition. And thank you so much, Jim. And I'd like to thank everybody here today that's been watching. And thank you to Duke Corporate Education for making this broadcast possible on LinkedIn Live. If you'd like to learn more about our research and our course on the Agile Dashboard or building strategic agility, you can go to the links on the screen. You can also find out more contact information about Jim at dukece.com. And I just want to again thank our panelists, Vishal and Scott, as well. And so remember that I'd like to say you also can't drive a car looking in the rearview mirror. So stay safe, everybody, and have a great day. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.